Well, if no one's gonna drink this, maybe I'll just... Ugh, that's terrible. That's...
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good golly, Miss Molly. Welcome, everybody, to Morning Coffee with Brian on Pop Culture Minefield. Thanks to you all for being here. We're welcome to you wherever you are out there on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, KGRA Digital Broadcasting, both on their website and all over various radio and audio stations, innumerably too many to mention, but we're going out all over the place, and we appreciate you all listening, whether it's live or indeed on a replay somewhere out there in the universe, in the alternative dimensions that we may be reaching through our Necromonicon, or I always pronounce that wrong.
Necronomicon?
Necromonicon. I always want to say Necro-Comic-Con, like it's a bunch of zombies at a fan festival, but you know.
I'd pay to see that.
I'd pay to see that too.
Or the Irish version, the Leprenomicon.
Leprenomicon. So yeah, welcome to you all. I can see a few people in the chat already on the YouTube side. So good morning to Penny. Good morning to our great friend Darius Munchausen, who's already given us a super sticker for $1.49. I'm willing to bet it's a box of popcorn.
You would be correct, sir.
So I think we need to play Darius a clip for that.
You have our gratitude.
Never get tired of that movie. So thank you, Darius, for that. But also with us, we have in the chat, you can see our great friend D. Bud Martin, great friend of this and my channel. Anima Confusa, good morning to you, Anima. I hope you're in, was it Austria you were heading for? Can't remember now.
But she's there already.
Yeah.
She's there now, yeah. She's there now. Good. Hope you're settling in there well. Penny, good morning to you. And we'll be checking in with the chat as we go. Please put your questions in for Ryan and indeed about any other things related that you want to talk about. And just before we do get underway, I would like to give a shout out to our sponsors, Fuel Up, the hydration formula for work, rest, and play. Links are in the description to that and all about Fuel Up and what they do and they can do, what it can do for you. And we'll be showing more information at the top of the hour in our ad break. So Fuel Up, thank you to them for continuing to sponsor Pop Culture Minefield on KGRA. So without further ado, I would like to introduce today's special guest, who is the writer and director and independent filmmaker extraordinaire of the movie Eldritch USA, which tells the story of two brothers who chase through the Midwestern hillbilly cult that claims it can resurrect people. Like it. So good morning to you, Ryan Smith. How are you, sir?
Morning, Brian. I think I'm doing all right.
Well, good. Glad to hear it. You're looking good, I have to say, and I do like all those bits and pieces in the background there.
Yeah, I've got a lot of stuff behind me.
Nice. I see some guitars and instruments as well.
Yeah,
Are you a bit of a musician too.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a musician. So I mean, Eldritch is actually a musical, so that definitely played a heavy hand in that.
Yeah, musical. My favorite kind of musical, possibly the only kind of like a horror comedy musical. Musicals otherwise, can love them or leave them. But, you know, if you're going to do music, do it in this setting, I think is the best. So I should briefly as well say hello to our my regular supporters and panel and producers, Martin and John. How are you guys?
Doing good.
We're fine, thank you.
Good, and thank you for being here, guys, as usual, and propping me up, literally, with the way my back is at the moment, propping me up. So, yeah, Ryan, we're going to get into a lot of the details about Eldritch, but just for those out there who wish to know a little bit more about the movie, it's really the story of a couple of siblings, the Jeff and Rich Brewer, who are, I like all brothers, are competitive, but Rich usually always comes out on top and Jeff is in the shadows, but tragedy strikes the family in a freak accident. And in a panic, Jeff seeks out a backwoods cult. I believe, are we based in Missouri there? Are we talking Missouri?
It's supposed to just be the Midwest, but, you know, I'm willing to say it's Missouri.
Yeah. And they are rumored to have supernatural powers, and the bumbling cult, who are musically inclined too, which is fun. They have a ritual that can solve this problem for Jeff. However, as is normal, things don't go the way that they're planned. So, absolutely fascinating premise, and I do want to get into the struggles of an independent filmmaker, because we love to support independent filmmakers and pop culture manual, the struggles of making it, or how the things you had to overcome. But I'd like to start with where you are today, if that's okay, Ryan. So I know you've had a number of screenings at things like the Alamo Draft House and others. Where is the movie in its release cycle?
So we had a pretty much a local premiere here. It was initially just supposed to be, a single screening, a single night. And they sold out so quickly that the Alamo asked us to do additional showings. And so they just kept adding showings, and they kept selling out. But they had the caveat that we had to be done before Guardians came out. So basically we ended up having 10 screenings. Every single one of them sold out. They've asked us to do more once Guardians kind of makes its way through. So we're kind of in the talks about that. In addition to that, we're also starting our festival run. So we've entered about 30 different film festivals. Yeah. We've only heard back from 2 of them so far, but most of them we're not going to hear back until like the August, September timeframe. Okay. And then we're also trying to, at the moment, find a distributor.
So distribution is probably it's one of the biggest challenges. Maybe it's the biggest challenge, because we know without distribution, you can make the best movie in the world, and no one's going to see it. Just how challenging is that to get a distributor to pick something up?
Location definitely plays into that. So we, we're in the middle of the Midwest. We're not in a filmmaking hub. So a lot of it is finding contacts where we can. I'm currently talking to a producer that's out in LA, but we're also hoping that by going through the festival run, we'll find some people that way as well. But it's slow going, but the people I've talked to so far seem to be pretty knowledgeable. And while I'm sure they are hoping to get a producer credit out of it, they also don't seem like they want to just gut the movie. So that's good.
No, that's great. Yeah. And would that be domestic distribution, or is there potential for international viewing?
It's international as well. So they have contacts both with the US and at the very least with the UK. But we're looking at a couple of different areas.
Yeah. Forget about Canada. We're a horror show as it is, so we don't need more horror movies.
Well, I have entered into the Toronto International Film Festival. So if you know anybody up there who's in charge of that.
I live in the backwoods of Alberta, so my contact with Toronto is pretty limited these days, other than watching their hockey team stumbling. But, and as you can see, I'm a Dallas Stars fan. And I believe there used to be a minor league hockey team in St. Louis. I think they were called like the Greens or something, or the Reds, the Blues. That was it. Sorry. Yes, I don't know whatever happened to them. I just you don't see much of them.
Yeah.
So before we dive into a lot of the details, I would like to give people the opportunity to see where they can find out more about the movie. And I want to make sure I cover this now, because I'm old and I get distracted later, and we'll probably be so busy talking I'll forget. So there's a great number of great places that people can go to find out more about the movie and where they might be able to see it. And watch the trailers and the teasers. So one of them is your Linktree page, which is on the screen. We do have all the links that we'll be showing throughout the show for these sources. So if you go there, everybody, you can see showings information, most importantly. Clearly, though, Twitter is another great source. There's some guy called That 70s Rock Fan has been tweeting stuff about the movie. I don't know who he is. I said you should ban him. So Eldritch U is at Eldritch U on Twitter. Lots of great information there. Again, screenings, most importantly, where you can see the movie. I I know you've got a Kickstarter. Is the Kickstarter theoretically closed?
Yeah, so that's where we got some of the initial funding. It ended up not paying for all of the film, but it was kind of our seed money for getting things going. That was actually right when COVID hit. We started it, I think, 2 or 3 weeks before everything shut down, and then we still managed to pull in the funds by the end, but then we couldn't film for like a year and a half.
Oh yeah. It was a real I mean, bad enough for big studios because they've got ways around these things, and making filming in Hollywood car parking lots and whatever. You guys just shut down completely, yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't. I mean, with all the different ordinances and things like that, and people just in general being afraid to get together. So once we started, we had all the temperature checks and all that stuff, but we got through it.
And of course, there are a lot of scenes with people grouped together in this movie at various places. So so there's a few of the places that that people can go to find out about the movie. Keep checking up on those, and we're particularly hoping, of course, that you'll get these distribution deals, and then I might get the chance to see it myself. So I haven't seen it yet. What I did want to do as well, Ryan, if it's okay with you, and if okay with the gods of YouTube, is that I actually wanted to play one of the trailers for the movie. Let's hope we don't get, what YouTube's like. Even though the writer and director is on the stream, they don't like people doing certain things. So with your indulgence, let's play the first official trailer so everyone can get a taste of what we're going to talk about.
Sure.
Have you never seen a horror movie before? Because this is the part where he murders us to death. And if he doesn't, whatever supernatural stuff he's using will.
You're being ridiculous.
What's ridiculous is trying to raise somebody back from the dead and expecting it not to blow up in your face. I've seen how this plays out, Jeff.
There was that one time out in Ludlow, brought his cat back from the dead and it didn't end well.
Hopefully your music won't get us
all those
copyright
pranksters.
struck.
It was prom night, it was pig's blood, it didn't end well. Don't forget about the family at the hotel. Jack went nuts with an axe and it didn't end well.
Did I tell you about
that one time in Castle Rock?
Look! I read Stephen King, okay?
Who said anything about Stephen? The point is...
The dead stay dead for a reason. And there's some doors I think we should not open. Please, Jeff, please, Jeff, please, Jeff. Don't bring him back from the dead.
Oh, this is a nightmare.
I mean, we're probably going to. We can't avoid getting to some spoiler territory because we were going to talk a little bit about the characters and the plot. But I think anyone that's seen a number of movies would know where some of that is going, or they think they know where it's going. Particularly with the two brothers. But it's a great trailer, by the way, first of all. And I know there's a second one which we'll show after the top of the hour.
Thanks.
Did you yourself edit that trailer and put it together?
Yes, and actually, fun fact: if you go to the Kickstarter page and watch the video for the Kickstarter, we made a proof of concept trailer over the course of a weekend where we just took pieces of the script and just filmed it all together and threw music with it. And that first trailer, is actually us recreating the Kickstarter trailer just with the new footage. So it was kind of fun to go down that path.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's a great trailer. The second one's fantastic too. And immediately you get a feel for the music though. So could you tell us a little bit about why you decided to make it a musical?
I think it's because I'm crazy. I didn't realize how difficult it would be to actually throw all of that together. At the time, whenever I was writing, I wanted to do something that would be unique, you know, because it was my first feature. I wanted to do something bold. And at the time, I also just really loved Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along blog, which is a musical about supervillains. And I just thought, wouldn't it be fun to do the same thing, but with a horror movie? And I thought I'd just lean into a bunch of pop culture references, and this is the result.
Well, we got the Castle Rock references there, but obviously there's a lot of. I mean, I don't think you're shy about the fact there's a Lovecraftian element to this too. And is H.P. Lovecraft one of your sort of inspirations as an artist? I mean, how did you get to where you are today as an independent filmmaker? What were the things that you loved when you were growing up?
So I would say absolutely Lovecraft is an influence. Honestly, it started with Evil Dead. I loved Army of Darkness. I loved Evil Dead 2. And I just thought, man, that Necronomicon, that is a cool book. And I started reading more about it. And I was like, oh, Lovecraft came up with that. So then I started reading Lovecraft and it just kind of took off from there. So yeah, in the film itself, I don't think you can go 2 minutes without some sort of a Lovecraft reference that pops out.
Yeah, and I know that you have lovingly inserted into the movie the Necronomicon and I'm assuming the Elder Gods.
Yog Sothoth actually is the specific one in this film.
Ah, right. You're keeping away from the Cthulhu. I can never pronounce that. I have, in fact, got a quick image that I'm going to share of the actual. So this is a fascinating thing because we've seen the Necronomicon in a number of. Forget it. I'm never going to get it right. I never do. I'm Scottish.
The Book of the Dead.
The Book of the Dead. I can never speak English. I can't even speak English, Ryan. Never mind. We've seen it in a number of movies, both Lovecraft and Lovecraftian movies, and this is your version. So, who put that together?
A couple people helped with that. One of them is actually a French artist. His name is Francois Leno. I try to mention him every time because he's created his own Necronomicon, kind of a page at a time. I think he calls it Gumicron. You can look it up, and he just adds just a page every so often, and I just loved his art, and so I reached out to him and said, hey, can I use this? And he said, sure, just make sure you credit me. And he sent me high-res files. So then we printed off all these pages, and I've got a friend, Sean O'Donohue, who actually learned how to do bookbinding specifically for this. We printed off all the pages. We made the book from scratch. He made the book from scratch. The front of it's got kind of a cool eyeball and leather, and it's got kind of a tentacle. And then another.
Wait a minute. Are you actually using it for real then? In real life?
If you look at that stuff closely, I don't know that could even be read. So
that would be great. I mean, where is that book now?
It's actually. I wasn't going to say it's here in my office.
It's somewhere. You've got it though.
It's down here in the basement.
That's pretty cool. I mean, that's just a loving attention to detail that is overwhelms me when I hear people saying that, because you didn't just go to a store and pick something off the shelf. You got that made.
We wanted to have one that was at least unique to our own film. We'll never top the one that was in Evil Dead, but it's still good.
Yeah, no, it's great, and those are elements that if you're going to be Lovecraftian, you got to have that in there. And that's great. So that was something that was an influence for you growing up. Evil Dead. I mean, we all love Evil Dead, particularly Army of Darkness. I mean, who doesn't love Army of Darkness?
I quote Campbell. Army of Darkness all the time.
That's right. Groovy. Boomstick. And Bruce is a wonderful, wonderful guy.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
So these are all the kind of things that have led to influencing this. But what was your journey as a filmmaker? I know you've got credits and for visual effects and a number of things. How did you get into this?
So it was kind of a long path. As I was getting out of the army, I was wanting to get into comic book art. So I was kind of studying, trying to build up my chops, and I found out really quick that I suck as an artist. So, but the thing that I really liked is that I really enjoyed doing sequential art, and that lent itself well to filmmaking. So I found a website online called videocopilot.net that had just a whole bunch of tutorials on how to create special effects. So explosions and things under your skin and just all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
So I just worked my way through that. And once I felt I had enough chops, I did my first short film, which was another H.P. Lovecraft adaptation called The Terrible Old Man. I was a crew of one on that short film, so I did everything on that with the exception of the acting. And that movie is not great, but it was my first film, and I was glad that I did it because I learned a lot of skills from that.
Yeah. So that was The Terrible Old Man, yeah?
Yes.
Just calling up just briefly your IMDb page. So there's The Terrible Old Man. Where could you see this?
It was on Amazon for a long time. You can see its illustrious IMDb score there. So it's
I never look at those scores. Never. In fact, it's a badge of honor as far as I'm concerned.
I ended up taking it down off of Amazon because I didn't want people to see that I had made this and then make assumptions about Eldritch based off of this. So if you'd like to see it, I have copies here. I can mail you a copy. Just promise not to show it to anyone.
Okay, I'll keep it to myself. Yeah. Thanks, mate. I'd love to see it. Yeah.
A 4.3 is better than 90% of what Asylum puts out, so you should be proud.
Streets ahead of Marvel. Let's put it that way. So, so they also another one is that you were involved with was this Buddy Cops.
Yeah, I was brought in last minute on that one. Basically, they had gone in and the practical effects they had were not sufficient, so they needed somebody to come in and add some blood splatter and some knife wounds and things like that.
So visual effects work. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
So that was my main thing on that one. I know it says that, I think it says on there I worked on Luther. That is not accurate. I have reached out to them and said, listen, I didn't do this, and they still kept it there. And I was like, well, apparently I worked on Luther and I just didn't know it.
Well, apparently you are Ryan Smith LXIX.
That's number 69 for those of you who don't know. And I did not do that on purpose. I am literally the 69th Ryan Smith on IMDb.
I think you've got to hope it stays that way.
I mean, I guess I just got to be proud of that. I don't know.
That's right. I don't celebrate. Yeah, but so Terrible Old Man. I'm looking forward to seeing that, mate. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind being able to get me a copy, that would be awesome.
Sure.
But yeah, so visual effects led you to wish to just take it that step further and do a complete project of your own as writer and director. Did you sit down to write this first, or did the actual genesis of the movie come about? Where did you start?
I knew I wanted to do something that was Lovecraft related and that was about two brothers, because I've got a twin brother, I've got an older brother, and so I just thought, while I've never wanted to have anything bad happen to any members of my family, I just thought it'd be fun to have some sibling rivalry kind of built into the script. And so that was kind of the genesis of that. And as I wrote it, I knew it was going to be a musical at that point. So we actually wrote the songs at the same time as we wrote the script. So my nephew is the lead singer. At the time, he was in a band called Guys on a Bus. They're amazing. If you look up their music, they're just wonderful.
Okay.
And they've since moved on to a new band called Fox Royale, and they are like on the cusp of becoming very large.
Guys on a Bus. I'll check those guys out. Yeah, and on this channel and on my channel, I do talk a lot about music, hence the name. Yeah. So maybe they'll be interested in having a chat with us.
I think they'd probably love that. So yeah, Guys on a Bus, and now it's Fox Royale is who they are now. But yeah, if as I was going through, I would tell Nathan, I'd say, listen, here's where we are in the story. Here's where we're going in the story. We need a song to get us from point A to point B. And we'd go back and forth on lyrics and theme. And once we kind of had that nailed down, then he'd go off and write the music and come back. There was only one that I kind of helped write the melody on. Nathan did all the melodies for every other song. So.
Okay. In terms of the vocals, though, was it all Nathan, or did the cast do any of their own?
It's the cast. It's all the cast. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Was that a challenge? Was that a challenge?
It was actually, a couple of them are not very musically inclined. So, it's odd casting somebody for a musical who that's not their thing. But
we do it all the time.
Our producer is fairly skilled at autotune, apparently. So he did a good job with the ones that needed a little bit of help. Yeah,
it's amazing what you can do with the tools of the trade now. Yeah. So there was a question earlier from Slasher Fred. Thanks for being here, Slasher Fred, and thank you to Darius and all the others, Dragon Ruse, that have joined the chat. And they're chatting away like crazy. Good to see you all. So Slasher Fred says, were you also a big fan of musicals from the 1930s and 1940s, the Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers ones? Is that something that's in your DNA? Or?
I like those musicals. I would say growing up, I was more of a fan of the cinema musicals that came out like around the 70s and 80s. I watched those a lot. So, you know, Grease and Little Shop of Horrors and a lot of the ones that came out kind of in that era, I just loved.
Yeah, these are ones that I grew up watching as well. I mean, I actually went to see all those at the cinema back in the day. I'm that old. And Rocky Horror Show, which I've seen live and the movies. And that's the kind of musicals I like. So this appeals to me. I like the music built into the plot, plus having the genre aspect of either horror or science fiction or comedy to go with it. So this is right in my wheelhouse, Ryan, I have to say. And you can do a lot with that music to accentuate the plot, I find. I mean, you said you wrote them as a piece, really, with the music already built in. Is that how your thinking went? You know, this is part of the plot.
Yes. No, absolutely. I think that was one of the things I definitely wanted to avoid, because I've seen musicals where they'll say something and then they'll sing about the thing they just said and then they move on, and I'm just like, you could pull the music out and it wouldn't affect the story at all. And I wanted this to be built in such a way that if you pulled the music out, you'd be missing something.
Yeah, and it did. I mean, we got that from the trailer. That song absolutely tells you a number of things about the plot, particularly around the brother relationship. So clearly, you having a twin brother, if I'm right, is an inspiration.
Yes.
Are you a Midwest guy? You're a Midwest boy yourself, so that was an inspiration too, yeah?
Yes. Yeah, I grew up in a little podunk town, probably population of only like 4,000 or 5,000, called El Dorado Springs. They didn't know better than to call it El Dorado Springs. So, and then I went to college in Joplin, Missouri, and joined the Army and was going around for about 5 years. And then I lived out in Virginia for about 8 years after that, because for my software job, and then they let me move back closer to home, and I've been in Springfield, Missouri for the last 7 years.
This is Missouri. Yeah. We don't know how to pronounce any town name. That's why instead of having Versailles, we've got Versailles.
Versailles, yeah. I'm going to Versailles.
Yep. And next to El Dorado Springs is also Nevada instead of Nevada. So, you know, we're just chock full of it.
Now that explains a lot about our great friend Gary that runs Pop Culture Minefield. That explains everything. Did you know Gary before the whole Pop Culture Minefield thing, Gary?
I did not. No, that was my first time meeting him.
All right, because I think he's a Missouri boy too.
Yeah, he's also in Springfield.
Yeah, and what is it about Missouri and the Midwest that lends itself to a movie like Eldritch, would you say?
I think I just try to make it just feel like home as much as possible. Like I know some people were like, well, it's not Springfield. It's like, well, it's not supposed to be Springfield. It's supposed to be a town called Eldritch. But I wanted it to just feel like people were friendly to each other, and I wanted to make sure the terrain fit. And, you know, living on the East Coast, it felt a little bit like I've got a lot of kids, and I felt like people looked at me weird because I had a lot of kids. And when we moved back towards Missouri, it's almost like somewhere around the Indiana, Ohio region, people started actually smiling at our children, and it just felt weird, like people were just happy to see us. So I kind of wanted to have that kind of heartfelt feeling built into it.
There is a certain I mean, I live in a small town again after being in and out of cities for years, and there is a certain something about them which is good and sometimes not so good. Generally, the good outweighs it because, as you say, people will look at you and say hello and smile. On the other hand, everybody seems to know everybody's business. So I guess that's in here somehow, is interwoven in the plot.
Yeah, well, at least to an extent. Like, the whole town knows Rich and knows everything about Rich and loves Rich, whereas his brother Jeff kind of slips under the radar on that front, and is always in his brother's shadow. So I'm not sure how much I was able to really reflect that in the film, but I mean that you're spot on, especially living in a small town. You know, we all knew each other, and we all knew exactly what was going on in each other's lives. And sometimes that was great, and sometimes it was less.
You can't surprise anybody. Like, but I've changed. I'm doing something different. Nah. But these guys, I mean, we're kind of bouncing into some of the details of the movie here, which is fine. These are the cultists, I believe. And
this actually is Guys on a Bus. So since they helped us, with writing the music, I made sure they had a good cameo in the film. So there's musical cultists that helped to perform the ritual, and I made sure that it was in fact them.
And I know that they're in costume and makeup and with funny haircuts, but there is a certain Midwestern look, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Actually, what I was trying to do, and unfortunately I don't think I pulled it off well enough. I wanted to make them look like ball knobbers. Because that's a big thing in the Midwest. Okay. But it's kind of weird to pull off those masks. I had initially wanted the cloaks to be like a dark blue or black or something like that, and my costume our costumers said, well, honestly, if they're poor hillbillies, they're just going to use whatever they have, which is probably white sheets. And it just made me nervous that people were going to see this and think Ku Klux Klan, and it is absolutely not that at all. It's just poor hillbillies that just picked up whatever they had laying around.
But on the other hand, I guess even the Klan could be classified in the larger subset of cult groups. So therefore, cult groups always wear a costume of some kind, a uniform. Robes are usually it. So yeah, you can't. Yeah, I mean, it's not that they're trying to look like the Klan. It's the fact that the Klan are a subset of a wider group of people who dress up.
Yeah, and I tried to be intentional, like as many of the masks as possible that we had. You can see there in the background, like our burlap or something like that.
Right there. Yeah,
instead of being white.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, nobody wants to be associated with that. But people do weird things in small towns, like join groups. Sometimes it's the Legion, sometimes it's the whatever. Book reading clubs. You name it. There's a club for everything.
Yeah, the backstory for the cult is basically it's just a ton of people that have lost somebody significant in their life, and they all want to bring somebody back. So they're all working together to try to figure that out.
I like the Twitter post you sent out recently with this gentleman was saying this he's drinking the Kool-Aid. This is cult leader getting ready for whatever. But there's the music that the cultists are playing. Is that part of the ritual?
It is absolutely part of the ritual. So the story leading up to that is that they've got the Necronomicon, but like what we've said, you can't really read it. So they also had a journal that had like the transliterations of how to pronounce everything and what it means. And somebody has stolen the journal, and so all they have is the Necronomicon. So they try to do the ritual just from memory. So they're up there trying to just remember the phrases, and things as a result do not go well.
I wonder if something goes wrong as a result. So the costumes, it's interesting you talked about costumes there. Like all independent movie makers, you have constraints. And one of those is in the amount of cash you got for anything. So how difficult was it to there's a lot of people in this movie. I mean, there's quite a lot of crowd scenes and a lot of characters. How difficult was it to get that costume wardrobe together?
So for the main characters, a lot of it, what they're wearing, with a few exceptions here and there, is actually their own clothes. So, we worked with the costumer to kind of identify a look. If they didn't have something that fit it, she would go out to, local flea markets and kind of find something that fit, and then she would like meticulously store everything and help with continuity. I think she still has some of these outfits in a closet somewhere just in case. But she was Mary Jo was wonderful at making sure that we did not break continuity on any of that. For the robes, she made all those from scratch. Anytime we had extras, it depended on the scene. If we had scenes with hillbilly cult members or zombies or anything like that, we'd say, hey, you need to wear flannel and stuff like that, and people would just show up with what they had that fit as closely as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's not cash is obviously a big issue. What are the other obstacles you had to overcome to get from script to finished product?
Some of it was location. A lot of the location scouting I had to do myself, and we were trying to find places that we could do as cheaply as possible. So, for instance, for some of the bar scenes, we didn't have money to close down the bars, and so we just filmed. We tried to capture the best audio we could, but of course, because it was an open bar, the audio just wasn't great.
That's guerrilla filmmaking, right?
Yeah.
There, yeah.
I mean, we had permission to be there, and we got a lot of weird looks, but I ended up having to go back and do ADR, automated dialogue replacement, for all of the bar scenes. So for all of that, we had to go through and just re-record all the audio
which is another technical challenge that you have to overcome. I mean, did you do that? Have you got a studio, like an audio studio? You did that in your site?
I did it right here. So I had a microphone. I've got Pro Tools. I've got all my editing equipment here. So we would set up a large monitor where they could see themselves, and we would put it on a loop. So they would say a phrase over and over and over again, and we would just keep recording it. And when we found one that matched the lips really well and had the right intonation, we would keep it. So it was a long process.
Yeah, if you don't mind sharing with me, though, what was the physical equipment you used to actually film the movie?
So for the camera, we use a Sony, I think A7. Okay. I wish we had access to a Red, but we wanted to do multi-camera shots, and we thought mixing the Sony with the Red would have been awkward, especially because the Red captures like I think 13-bit images, and the Sony only does 8. So we ended up doing 2 Sonys and captured everything on that. Everything's 4K. We specifically did a 2.35 to 1 ratio, so it has more of a cinematic look. That's that kind of a thinner, wider shot.
And it looks great on the trailer. I mean, absolutely looks fabulous, I have to say, mate.
Thanks. And then Kong Tao helped us with the audio equipment. I can't even begin to say all the audio equipment that he had, but he did a wonderful job. He really knows his stuff when it comes to audio.
Was there a DP, or were you acting as the DP?
So David Watson was the DP. I was the DP on Terrible Old Man, but David Watson is just such an artist, and he really sets up lights in all these wonderful places throughout the whole thing. I mean, he would just labor over where to place a single light, and as a result, we ended up with some just really well shot scenes that he did a wonderful job.
Yeah, I think Davina's pointing out there's an IMDb rating of 9.5 out of 10 for Eldritch. That's so we will take that as a badge of honor. You see, reversing my standards now.
It's definitely better than the Terrible Old Man.
Hey, but everyone's got. I've never made a movie, so everyone's got to start somewhere. And how can you learn if you don't do?
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. Is I mean, even on Eldritch, there's things I've learned to do and what not to do, and that'll affect the next thing I make. So.
Yeah, so well, maybe before the end of the stream, we'll certainly get the chance to talk about that a little bit. But I did want to talk about the casting. So how did you approach the process of selecting the cast and crew, and what qualities were you looking for and those guys and girls? What was the whole process?
It's kind of funny. Whenever you bring in, we just did a wide casting call to the Springfield area and outside the Springfield area, and you always go into that thinking exactly what you want from a character, and then whenever you meet these people, they some of them change your mind. So, for instance, Clyde, who's laughing there. I can't even remember what I had initially thought whenever I wrote Clyde. I think I was going for just straight up crazy hillbilly, and he came in and he gave it almost a Southern preacher kind of feel, and honestly, that was better than what I had imagined at that point. So Wes McNew just kind of came in and did it, and he blew us away, and we're less like.
So that's Wes McNew.
Yes.
And he's playing Clyde, who's basically is he the cult leader?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and he was one of 2 actors that would just he would just riff. He would we'd make sure we got some of the shots that stuck to the script, but he would also just kind of go off the rails and improv his own stuff in there, and we ended up keeping a lot of the stuff he did. He was really good.
Hillbilly. That's great. Yeah, he does look like he's really going for it there in terms of performance. So. charismatic cult leader. And the gentleman next to him is playing Jeff.
Yes.
Jeff Brewer. Yeah, it's one of the brothers.
Yep.
What's the name of the actor?
That's Graham Weldon. And he was another one who just kind of came in, and I think the song he sang for us, he did Big Ass Rock, which I'd never even heard that song before, but it's hilarious. And he just kind of had the right qualities, you know. And honestly, he kind of had a tough role to fill because he's the straight man basically to everyone else. And that, you know, that's not a simple thing to do. He really kind of had to put some emotion in that, and a level of subtlety that that he really just nailed.
Yeah, he's the two brothers. Are they meant to be? There's one's older and one's younger. They're not twins. So his older brother, he's the younger brother, Jeff.
Yes.
And the other brother's the older brother, and because they don't look particularly alike, I guess, in terms of casting, and they're quite different physically. So there's a difference between the two guys. I guess that's reflected in their character.
Yes. And also, I mean, their hair colors were similar, so that was helpful. I will say that when we initially cast Jeff, it was pre-COVID, and he ended up putting on some weight over the course of COVID, so that was a little bit of a change, but honestly, it didn't matter because Graham just nailed it. He did it.
Yeah, the personalities of the two brothers are very different, though.
Yes,
I think is the message.
Yeah.
One of the older brother is perhaps the more charismatic.
He is. He's much more outgoing, and it's kind of funny throughout the film. Women are constantly falling for him, and there's really intentionally there's just not much of a reason for it. It just keeps happening, and it's kind of the humor behind it.
We all know that, Ryan. We all know that feeling personally. It's so just to show. Oops, sorry. I think it. I didn't. Yeah. So if I show the thumbnail, we can see Ryan, the elder brother.
Yes.
It's not an elder god, but he may know one.
Well, and somebody pointed out, you know, he's the elder brother and his name's Rich, and we named the town Eldritch. So that was somewhat intentional because it also plays with the Lovecraft thing.
See, I love those little details, and you clearly thought about a lot of those little details, which is for a train spotter like me, in the best sense of the word. It's, oh, I got that reference. I got that. I actually like the name of the local news station. It's KTLU.
Yep.
Which
for
is
Cthulhu.
Yeah, and then also could spell cult if you rearranged it.
Yeah.
That one got. That's clever. That's a clever one. So the gentleman on the right, though, tell us a little bit about that character.
So that is the main character, Jeff. It's his best friend, Colin. And actually, Colin is an amalgamation of two friends I had growing up. One of them is my high school friend, Colin Selby, and then the other one is my friend growing up when I was out in Virginia. I guess not growing up, several years ago out in Virginia. His name's Bill Fisher. So his name is Colin Fisher. He's played by Cameron Perry, and he's another one that just kind of came in and just nailed the role. He was another one who would riff and he would do some improv, and we ended up just keeping a lot of his improv moments because he was so funny.
Yeah, he does look like a fun guy, and his character is from what I can see from the trailers, looks like he's a bit of a foil to his friend there, in the sense they're very different, which friends usually are. So he's got more of a, I don't know, outrageous role. Not outrageous, but there's a bit more front to him. Yeah.
He was intentionally written as kind of our pop culture reference guy. He's constantly bringing in all kinds of different movies and horror films, and you know, says several times, "Hey, you know, have you never seen a horror film?" And you know, it's not quite fourth wall breaking, but it's close.
Yeah, I do like that. But I also always aspire to this hairstyle myself. I can't do it anymore, but I wish I did.
Yeah, Mary Jo had a lot of fun with this outfit. I think she went nuts, and just everything she could throw on Wes, she did.
She was hunting a few deer for pelts. So the casting it seems like it must have been a fun experience, though.
It was overall. I think for the most part, we laughed a lot. We enjoyed the experience. I don't think anybody really got into any issues with one another. I will say for all these scenes that you see that are inside this shed, we filmed that 2 or 3 Augusts ago. Whenever it was like 104 degrees outside, and we were inside a shed with no air conditioning, and we would have to shut the doors to block out sound and light, and we were just melting. It was so.
Yeah. See, this is one of the bar scenes, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, this is at 417 Tap House. It's kind of actually a fun bar. As you look at it throughout the film, they actually have pop culture references all throughout the bar, which is what made me want to use it.
So we can visit that. Oh, you've been in it, John, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
So we can visit this bar. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a really fun place to hang out. And they've got, Star Wars and horror film and stuff just all over the walls.
Yeah.
They have an Addams Family pinball machine in the back.
Yes.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, but it looks like you've given, again, the constraints of an independent filmmaker, that the casting has been, like, people were really keen to step up and get involved. And got some great talent.
And we had some extras that they enjoyed the experience so much that every time we put a casting call, they kept coming back. So we had to be very careful where we placed them, because you didn't want to be like, well, I've seen that extra in 27 different scenes. But they did. They just kept coming back. They wanted to be involved. A lot of the cult members, we would just kind of swap out masks and outfits and just put them in a different spot. And we had to be as creative as possible.
Well, the thing is, if you did see them in several different scenes, you could claim that there was something to do with what was going on in this town.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I think there's a scene in the news station where I think one of the guys in the background who works at the news station is also in the background of the cult. So it makes you, if you're paying attention, you'd be like, oh, I guess the guy from the news station is in the cult.
Well, exactly. Yes, that's what I'm thinking. There's all sorts of scope for little bits and pieces like that. And, but clearly that you spent a lot of time thinking about that as you were writing it.
Oh yeah.
Like, how can I just make this look even more, connected as what's going on? So I don't know how much we want to give away, but the trailer does give something away. Jeff is clearly searching for a solution to a problem.
Yes.
It may involve his older brother.
Yes.
And how does he discover the cult in this town?
So right at the beginning of the film, they actually are doing a news interview of the cult, who says that they've brought somebody back to life.
Right.
And then as it turns out, they're not able to prove it, and so they just kind of leave them behind. They don't end up doing
treating it as a joke. Yeah.
Yeah. But it plants the seed in Jeff's mind of, hey, now I know who to go to.
Right. So the Good Brothers are actually working for a news channel, or
yes, they work for KTLU. Rich is the kind of the field reporter, and Jeff, his brother, is the camera guy that has to follow him around everywhere.
Nice. So
so this is when they actually interview the cult initially.
Yeah, who all happen to be performing a musical number.
Yes, yeah, they're singing about how it's great to be in a community. And then, it's this nice, bright, cheerful song. But then when you listen closely to the lyrics, you're like, this isn't bright and cheerful. They're talking about how they have to give the cult half their money, and they're talking about how they can't leave.
Help me.
Yeah, but it's all bright and cheerful.
Yeah, I have to say I do have a couple of shirts that look just like that. So what does that say about me?
Yeah, this is one of the days where we told everybody, hey, bring a flannel.
Yeah. But Kingdom Beyond Community, is that their slogan in a sense?
Kingdom Beyond Community. So
so it's Kingdom Beyond. Okay, right. Yeah. I thought maybe it was Kingdom Beyond Community.
No, it's a reference to that movie Beyond, actually. So
right, that From Beyond. Beyond, yeah. So yeah, it's kind of a history of Lovecraftian inspired movies. I don't think it's unfair to you to say this is a Lovecraftian movie. It's in the canon, in the universe of Lovecraft.
Yeah.
So there's a number of movies that so there's clearly a From Beyond reference. What other references without giving too much away, did you manage to slip in there?
There's actually a scene, I don't know if it's in the pictures that I sent, but there's a scene of a whole bunch of artifacts on a table, and that table has actually got a map of Antarctica with a bunch of spots pointed out. That's supposed to be a reference to Mountains of Madness. It's got a King in Yellow statue. It's got some bottles from the Terrible Old Man. That table is just chock full of Lovecraftian
references. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah.
Also, there's kind of a liberal interpretation of another Lovecraft artifact called the Silver Key that pops up several times.
Oh, and I've got a little bit of the artwork for the key somewhere. So let me dig that out and from one of your. This is it. So this is some of the concept artwork for the key, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's supposed to start off as a puzzle cube, similar to
Hellraiser.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
And then different configurations are supposed to be able to do different things. So,
so we got a key, we got a Necronomicon thing, Book of the Dead. My entire life, I've never been able to pronounce that. I'm Scottish. What do you expect? Yeah. I know it's someone else joined us in the chat that mentioned my Scottish accent. Whoever it was, yes. I've tried other ones on through the years, but this is the only one that works. So, but you've also got the Yog Sothoth Elder God. Without giving too much away again, at what point does that come into the movie? Does that character
towards the end of the movie, everything kind of builds towards that. So the movie actually is closely related to another Lovecraft story called the Dunwich Horror, which actually is about Yog Sothoth and the Necronomicon.
Great movie, 1970 movie. Yeah.
And I guess spoiler for that story. That story is also about two brothers. But yeah, while it's not obviously not a direct adaptation of that story, I did try to pull heavily from the themes of it.
That is a really good movie, Dunwich Horror. I think that's the Dean Stock. Is that the Dean Stockwell one?
That's one from the 70s, I believe. I don't know that I've ever actually seen it.
I think it's 1970. I saw it a long time ago. I read a lot of Lovecraft books. Believe it or not, I was about 12, when I read all those back in the early 70s. So I haven't read a lot of them since. It's kind of made me want to catch up on them again and read them again now.
I read them every, I guess about every 4 or 5 years. I go through a Lovecraftian phase.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the movies. I'm more into the movies. Did Brian have a stroke? I guess Monkey. I'm just like that all the time. This is my normal demeanor. Maybe I did have a stroke. I just don't. I would be aware of it. But yeah, and we have our own elder gods, but because we mispronounce things in Scotland, we could the elder dogs.
Davina made a comment earlier about putting the love in Lovecraft, and actually in the film, there's a part in there where, Rich is always, got girls following him, and he's always on the lookout for a new girl, and he's actually going through a dating app, and he's swiping right over and over and over again. But if you look at the app, we called it Craft Love, is the name of the dating app.
Very clever, very clever. Yes, he seems to have a following. When you look at certain of the images from the movie, he's got a lot of people behind him. A lot of them are girls. Is he like that at the beginning of the movie, or does he?
Yes,
like that
and actually, Andy Finney's the one that plays Rich, and he had a little bit of a challenge with that character that he really had to tackle, and that's that initially he's just a jerk. He's mean to his brother. He's always putting his brother in his place, and the whole town loves him. And he's just got the most swelled head ever. And then after the incident that happens to him, I mean, I guess we're getting into spoiler territory, but after the incident that happens to him, he goes through a period of being very innocent, very childlike. Like he gets easily excited over things and just does not act like himself. And then for the final portion of the film, he turns into a full-on villain. So he had to go through lots of changes as a character, and he really tackled it well.
Yeah, this is the scene or the picture I'm thinking of where he's clearly got a bunch of admirers.
Hey, Brian, we got 1 minute.
All right, 1 minute to the top of the hour. So yeah, we'll be digging into more of the cast and anything in the plot that you can tell us, and some of the memories of making the movie, your favorite or least favorite memories after the break, and we'll also show the second trailer. So thanks everybody for being here. And yes, I can assure you, I am not stroking out on screen. It's just the way I am. So yeah, let's go to break whenever our producers want to hit the button.
Hi guys, this is Gary from Pop Culture Minefield here on KGRA, and we're leaving for our first break. I hope we survive.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a feel the difference money back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Oh wow, we survived. Welcome back to the commercial break. Now for some more Pop Culture Minefield on KGRA.
Welcome back, everybody, to Morning Coffee with Brian on Pop Culture Minefield, where indeed I am in it's unpronounceable horrors. Now, Ryan, if you think this is bad, I do a lot of stuff about Korean movies, and my pronunciation of Korean names is even worse. So,
I speak Korean, actually.
Oh, you do?
I do. That was from my time in the army.
Annyeonghaseyo. Yeah. See, I'm picking up all the words from watching so many movies. So that was you were based in South Korea and Seoul?
No, actually I wasn't. I went to the Defense Language Institute out in Monterey, California for a couple of years while I was in the army, which was Monterey's beautiful. And then I was stationed out in Hawaii for 3 years.
All right. So, but Korean was one of the languages you needed to be able to understand for security reasons.
Yeah,
they really put you on those hardship tours, didn't they?
I know. Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess I got out while the getting was good because it was right during Afghanistan, and they had too many Korean linguists actually. So it was the points were at 798 the whole time I was in, so I couldn't get promoted to sergeant. So I just went ahead and got out and went into the private sector.
That is really interesting that they had too many. You wouldn't think they would never have enough.
Well, at the time, it was before Shock and Awe, and they were trying to gear up for what was coming next. And it was either, hey, it's going to be Korean or it's going to be, Farsi. And so it was 50-50, and then it ended up going the Arabic route. So yeah, they just had too many Korean linguists.
Yeah, just diverting a little though, on that topic matter, there's a great movie that I did a little video about earlier this year called The Point Men, which is about the Korean presence in Afghanistan, which you might find interesting if you get the chance to watch it. It's Hyun Bin and Hwang Min Jun. It's a couple of great Korean actors, and it's about the hostages. There was Korean relief workers, but there were also missionaries that were taken hostage, and it's a real life story, and it's set in. It's unusual because not a lot of people knew the Koreans were there in the first place. So it's about a diplomat and a Korean special agent guy trying to get these hostages out without loss of life. Really interesting movie because they struggled to find someone to interpret for them with the Taliban, because there's like one Korean guy can speak Farsi or whatever it is, So it's a bit of a struggle to even talk to the people that have taken their hostages, apart from the fact English is in the middle. But great movie.
I need to check that out.
Yeah, the Point Men, it's called. So back to welcome back everybody from the break. Thanks for joining us. The chat is on fire. Shinotsky is saying even my internet is Scottish. My internet is Canadian, which is probably why it's every second word is censored. And then Monkey Jeebus says, when Brian was 12, when I was reading Lovecraft, that was back in 1902. Well, you're not far off it. But welcome back to Ryan Smith, writer, producer, director, and basically all-around odd job man on the wonderful Eldritch USA that we're really loving you being here talking about this, Ryan. Thank you.
It's great to be here.
Appreciate it very much. We were just looking at some of the cast and I wanted to show some of the production scenes you sent through. So this is the man at work. Genius at work should be a sign.
Let's not take it too far.
But I mean, was it enjoyable or was it extremely difficult? What was it like? What's it like filming a movie? I mean, I've never done anything like that.
It's overwhelming, particularly the first one you ever do. I mean, I definitely, there were lots of parts where I felt like I had just bitten off more than I could chew. Because like I said, I'd done a short film before and I'd done a lot of small, 2-3 minute projects, but this was a full the movie is an hour and 48 minutes long. It's a full feature. And at times it felt like it was very overwhelming. Particularly probably the hardest part, and you wouldn't think it's that big of a deal, was scheduling. Everybody that you see has a full-time job. And whenever we first started filming, so these scenes that you see here in the shed, we filmed for a week, I think 9 days straight. And we all agreed to take work off for a week. And so, everybody kind of just made a small sacrifice. I made sure everybody was paid, and it wasn't necessarily a ton of money, but everybody was paid for a day's work. And that was a lot. And then after that, it was all nights and weekends. We filmed from August through December. Just need to get the bat through them.
Yeah, we tend to forget about the fact that virtually everybody in independent film business has got another job.
Yes.
Like a parallel life that this is to fit around. So not the easiest thing in the world to get that time from everybody. And did you actually manage to film the principal photography all in the allotted period, or did you have to do a lot of callbacks and reshoots?
We didn't really have to do a lot of callbacks and reshoots, but that we all wanted to do that first kind of week and a half, and I thought we would get further than we were going to. We ended up filming, I think, about 30 to 40% of the movie, and then over the next 2 to 3 months, we filmed the rest of it. We still had to do a couple pickup shots after December, but for the most part, we were 98% done in December. Okay,
that's good. Yeah, so I mean, you have to be a project manager, don't you?
Absolutely. Actually, I have a master's in project management.
Oh, well, I'm a certified project manager too. That was my real life for years. Filmmaking is project management. You have to organize everything.
Yeah, my co-director Tyler Foreman, he and I would just kind of puzzle late into the night, being like, "Well, we don't have this person this day, and we don't have this person this day. So what day do we have them?" And it was just a ton of communication, ton of back and forth. Sometimes we would just want to tear our hair out.
Logistics.
But honestly, that was the most challenging part of the whole thing, because for the most part, when we were actually on set filming, everybody was having a blast.
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, I love this picture. I mean, this is some of the practical effects involved. This is what happens when I play baseball, by the way. Every freaking time. Someone gets the... So that's great. Who was in charge of mainly of your principal or your effects?
We had one person who started off, and there ended up being some creative differences there, so they ended up stepping away. So then Brittany Greer stepped in, and she did all of our practical effects from that point on, and she did an excellent job.
This looks great. Yeah, 'tis but a scratch, as Davina says. Yes. Your arm's off. Are you a Python fan, Ryan? Is there a Python-esque element to any of this? Or?
Monty Python. I did intentionally write it so that. I mean, unless you are just really tracking everything, you probably need to watch the movie 2 or 3 times to catch all the jokes. And that was actually very intentional because it is just joke and reference one after the other. And I'm convinced that on your 3rd, 4th time through, you'll still catch jokes you didn't catch the first time.
Oh, I can't wait, mate. I mean, I'm looking forward to getting the opportunity to watch it at some point, and possibly one of these if you can get these distribution deals sorted out. And is there a streaming potential, do you think?
That the distributor would actually be in charge of that. So whoever ends up helping us and purchasing it will determine, DVD, Blu-ray, what platforms it gets streamed on, etc.
Yeah, Blu-ray purchase would be fantastic if that can come about. That's a great way of supporting independent filmmakers. I mean, watching it in streaming is fine, but to buy the physical product, that's the best. So we're hoping that'll come true, Ryan. Yeah. There was something I was just going to ask about that. Hang on. Okay, I'll come back to it. But yeah, it's a nice scene. Here's some more production stills.
So I can give a story behind this photo. You notice we're all pointing at something. So there's a scene, it's in some of the trailers where a chicken gets stabbed and the guy just gets horribly spurted with blood all over his face. Well, we had a lot more power behind that blood shot than we realized, because after we shot it, we realized that the blood hit the ceiling that was like 25 or 30 feet above us.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a problem. I find that's a problem in real life when I'm sacrificing chickens. I mean, it's
the Blu-ray that's mentioned on the Kickstarter page, just talking to Davina for a second, is those will go out when the distribution part is hit, and all the people who backed on the Kickstarter will just get a free one of those whenever it comes out.
I know what I was going to mention. So I think it was Davina mentioned earlier. Sorry, to just flip back. This is the comment I was looking for. See, I get distracted when reading the comments to try. Has Eldritch USA been featured on Film Threat? That's Chris Gore's channel.
I'm going to be honest. I don't know what Film Threat is, so, I apologize.
So, yeah, John, you're probably
Chris Gore is a big movie reviewer. He's Film Threats his magazine and also his YouTube channel. But I think Chris Gore loved this movie.
Yeah, so he's a big supporter of independent movies, guys like Tom Conkle and others. I don't know Chris personally. I might have been on one stream with him once, but we do know people that do know him. So we'll see if we can.
If you guys can help make those connections, we are actively looking for particularly Rotten Tomatoes certified film critics. So
Chris is filmmaker himself, and we know people who know him. I don't know him personally, but we'll see what we can do, mate. Yeah, we'll go to those people and put you together. I think
I'll talk to Tom or Andre.
Tom, Andre, Paulie, Latino Salon.
Yeah, Paulie would. Yeah,
Paulie will do it. Yeah, I'm. Yeah, we've got friends that have friends, so we'll see what we because that would be a fantastic. Film Threat's great. Chris is fantastic, really great filmmaker himself and documentary maker.
We know a guy.
Yeah, we know a guy. We'll speak to our elder gods. But yeah, this is the scene you're talking about, I think, with the blood splatter.
That's actually a different scene. No, the other one is it's a cult member, and he just gets totally blasted in the face with blood.
See, that sounds like fun.
We had a lot of fun shooting it. The poor guy. I don't know how he felt about it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right. Yeah. Sorry, I just dropped the production stills there. I want to go back to them. Just the day-to-day challenges like that must have been a learning curve.
It was.
It didn't quite go the way you thought they were going to go. Sorry. Here we go. Production stills.
I think you were in the behind the scenes, the BTS.
That's the behind the scenes. Sorry.
No worries.
I wanted to get. Sorry, forgive me for this, Ryan. Just
no.
Here we go. Behind the scenes. I got it. Yeah. Should come up soon. Yeah, this is where we were. So we were in the production stuff, which is so you can see some of the equipment you were using. This is in the shed, yeah?
Yes, this is still in the shed.
Yeah. Which I guess was useful for a number of different areas.
It was out in the middle of nowhere, so that was nice. So it was kind of isolated as far as sound goes. And then it helped us to, we could just set up equipment there, leave it overnight. We weren't worried about anything getting stolen. So yeah, it really was an ideal location. One of our producers, Christian Carroll, provided the location for us, and he did it. It was
nice. Yeah, and we can see here a number of people tied up. Again, you don't want to give too much away, but one of them is the cult leader, I think.
Yeah, he kind of loses control of the cult.
I was going to say there's clearly a rebellion at some point. Okay, so we got some interior living room type shots.
Yeah, these are shots inside Jeff's apartment. Where they're having discussions about how to deal with somebody who's undead.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Well, actually, there's a point in the story where one of the undead characters does a very immoral act, and so then there's a whole song about them trying to teach him what morals are, and it's quite amusing. They even use the trolley situation, and that just confuses everyone.
But can you really blame the undead?
They don't know any better.
They don't know any better. I mean, they were resting peacefully. Yeah. Oh, that's a fantastic shot. So you got a lot of good makeup here.
Yeah.
In this fantastic black hole in the middle. Yeah. Brilliant stuff. The makeup looks really good.
This is the parents' house.
Yeah.
So,
and can't you just tell it's a parent house, Midwest parents' house, wood paneled cabinets?
Yeah, the couple that let us use their place, they actually go to the church that I attend, and I was amazed that they were letting me film a horror movie in their house, but they were super happy to do it. So I was like, thank you.
Yeah, that's like the church guys that funded Ed Wood's movies. Knew they were getting into it.
It's funny, the relationship with the parents, how the whole town loves Rich and Jeff is always in the shadow, and that actually carries over with the parents as well. They all love Rich and they don't really care about Jeff.
Yeah. As a younger brother myself, I can testify to things like that. Older brothers get it's a double-edged sword. They get all the good stuff and all the bad stuff. The younger one is despair. We can do what we want.
This is also a fun shot where we it was one of our choreography days, so we got a lot of dancing zombies. I don't know if you noticed in the trailer, but we had a Michael Jackson reference with one of the poses they struck from Thriller.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But as he's, I'm kind of protecting the way for the DP as he's backing through the crowd, trying to make sure that he doesn't run into anyone while we're filming.
Yeah, that's awesome. Again, great makeup. Must have been quite a lot of fun filming that, I would imagine. And did you cast people that for these scenes that did have some dancing, singing ability?
So the one in front on the right is actually our main choreographer, Madison Foreman, wearing sunglasses. And the one on the far left is actually a friend of hers who was also really heavily into dancing and helped with some choreography. Nice. And everyone else, like some of them had a little bit of dancing experience just from local theater, but for the most part, the choreographers would show up and work with the extras for about an hour or two before we would shoot. And then we'd be off to the races.
Nice. Looks like a lot of fun. Can't wait to see those scenes. All right. Was there so a lot of what we've seen in the shed, we've seen a lot of outdoor photography. Was there a lot of night shooting or dark?
Yeah, there's a massive field behind my house where towards the end of the film, a lot of it takes place there. And it is hard to light a field. Because there wasn't a whole lot of lights around, and we wanted to make sure that you could see the trees and you could see some of the grass and things like that. So I mean, we had lights everywhere.
It's not so hard to set light to a field, but just to light a field is tough.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I guess that's what we could have done. We did have tiki torches everywhere, so that helps.
All right, yeah. Well, cultists have to have tiki torches, and I don't know where they get them from. I think it's Home Depot or somewhere, but yeah.
Walmart in this case.
Walmart. There's never a tiki torch around when you need one.
Southwest Missouri, you can't throw a rock without no Walmart.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah. So where's this particular location? Is this?
This is downtown by one of the other bars that we filmed at.
Downtown St. Louis? No.
That's right outside the shrine or the shrine.
This is St. Louis. Sorry.
No, this is still Springfield.
Oh, it's still Springfield. Sorry.
Yeah, everything was shot in and around Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah, I've never been to Springfield. Yeah.
So we were. This is actually one of the singing scenes, and we had Aline walking down. She's singing a sad song about her family, and so we were trying to just kind of follow her down the sidewalk.
It's an interesting logo up in that building, though.
That's a Shriner's place. Yeah.
So a cult. You found a cult. You filmed it. Sorry, my apologies to anyone in the Shriners. It's a mild cult. Yeah, I mean, and I guess you're just shoot. You can just pitch up in the street and shoot, or did you have to get permissions?
For any like the public locations, you really don't need permission as long as you're not like obstructing traffic or anything like that. We just had to be mindful of people walking around in the background so that they wouldn't just stop and stare at the camera.
Oh, there's plenty of us would have been, what's going on there? And then we'd have been up trying to get in the.
Yeah, we actually had to throw away some shots because of stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess this is the bar again, but I think we get a better view if they can see the Doctor Who police box.
Oh yeah, that bar is a hoot. There's this culture references all over the place.
Yeah, there's a weird cultish flag up in the top here. Yeah, I don't know what that's from, but sorry about that. It looks like a great bar. Yeah, so here's some of the night shooting.
That's the field.
There's the key.
Yep, that's the silver key that I had mentioned. We had 3 different versions of it. One of them that was just a regular cube, one that was in just kind of a funky configuration, and then a third one that we could put lights inside and light it all kinds of different colors.
Yeah. What were some of the? I mean, we're having a lot of fun here talking about the good stuff and the enjoyable parts, but were there anything you could share that wasn't so much fun, that didn't go well, or?
I know that I had mentioned that we had some kind of differences of creative differences at the beginning, and so that was probably the biggest thing. There was a lot of tension on set because of that, and then I think 10 days into shooting, the people that we were having issues with ended up saying that they quit. That was probably the most uncomfortable, hardest thing. For the most part, we never got kicked out of anywhere. We never had people who got mad at us. I will say we were filming in metagames, and there was a group there playing a game, and they came and approached us and said we were being too loud. And then I told the store owners, and they said, if they complain to you again, let me know and we'll kick them out.
We'll kick them out, yeah. Filmmakers, strike one for filmmakers.
That's right. We were trying to film a scene with some speed cubing, and we had a crowd that was cheering for the speed cubing, which I don't know that would ever actually happen in real life, but we were trying to do something like that.
You distracted the tabletop gamers.
Yeah, they were trying to play D&D, and they said somebody had PTSD, and they were
oh dear
upset, and I was like, okay.
They had PTSD and they're playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I guess that's why Dungeons and Dragons is being watered down for them these days. Just if I can put it that way.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Don't want people to get upset playing a game. Yeah.
This is an office building we filmed at for several days. They let us come in over the weekend when they weren't open, and we shot several signs.
This is the news, and this is the news organization.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the news station.
KTLU.
The inside and the outside were 2 different locations.
And our main guy again.
Oh, I mentioned scheduling. Sorry, my wife just popped in.
All right, hello, Mrs. Smith. It's Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah, she was actually. You can come over here if you want.
Is she in the movie?
She was actually our caterer for the film, and she did.
Oh, welcome, Mrs. Smith. Welcome to Pop Culture Minefield. What's it like being the spouse of an independent filmmaker who's probably absent for weeks at a time on some set?
It's a lot like being a single parent, I think.
And you got a number of kids, haven't you? Yeah. So,
yes, we do. We have 5 kids.
Yeah, but you got involved with the catering. So how did that work out for you? Was that a lot of fun?
It was really stressful, but once I got the hang of it, I was like, okay, I can do this. If I just know how many people I have to feed, that was the big part,
Yeah,
because I never knew how many were going to be on set.
Yeah, some days it was 12, and other days it was 40. So it just depended on the scene and where we were.
And I mean, how do you decide what you're going to feed them? I mean,
It was tricky because I didn't know if I could keep food hot or if they'd be ready for it when I got there because they might be in the middle of something. And so I just tried to do the best I could. So
and then of course people, I can't eat this and I can't eat that. And
yeah, I would try to keep that in mind. There were a couple, I think they were vegetarians, so I tried to have options for them. But
yeah,
it was like, well, you might want to bring your own dinner because I can't.
Well, I would have thought a vegetarian in the Midwest is somebody that only eats meat once a day. Isn't that a Midwest vegetarian?
Right.
I will say my favorite meal one night filming, she brought chicken mole enchiladas, and I was just like, it was like having like a super nice restaurant-y type meal.
I think that's what they were eating in the scene where they're at Rich and Jeff's house.
Yeah,
they're eating
at the parents' house.
Yeah, and they were actually eating then, because you know what annoys me about movies is when they put food on the table and nobody eats it. They were eating in this case. That's great. Did you actually feel like appearing in the movie too, though?
She is an extra in a couple scenes.
Yeah, you can see the back of my head a couple times. So
yeah,
I was like, as long as I don't have to sing or dance.
So now you've got a taste for being part of the film business, though. Do you want to get involved in Ryan's next project?
I like being a part of the writing side of it, and when he's tossing ideas around and just trying to make something that he's come up with, try to tweak it to make it just a little next level if we can. So that was a lot of fun.
She's invaluable, particularly on the dialogue portion, because, as a guy writer, I don't know what girls are thinking. I have a really hard time with that. So anytime I do dialogue, I'm like, is this something a woman would say? And she usually says no.
Ryan, do any of us really know what women are thinking? Especially when they go, you should have known what I was thinking.
Easier to understand elder gods than it is
elder
to
gods.
understand
That's right. But you obviously share this.
So.
Yeah, I mean, like many married couples, you share the same cultural references, obviously. So you obviously have the same taste. So the writing would have been good together.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, working with Amanda on writing is great. She's a great writer herself, and so she kind of helps elevate me to do better things. So,
So Amanda, are you writing anything right now?
I'm actually working on outlining a true crime story that I'd like to turn into something horrific, which is weird because I'm actually not into horror, but I do like true crime, and this story has fascinated me. So I've been kind of trying to flesh it out, and I think I can make it actually relevant for the current cultural climate and have something to say with that too, even though it's set in like the early 1900s.
Some body horror elements.
Okay, I get it. Yeah. So that sounds fascinating. Well, keep us up to date on that.
It's not affected by the writer's strike.
Yeah, you're not. Well, you're not in the Film Actors Guild, is what you're saying. So I
got that reference.
You did get that. I can recommend a director for you, Amanda.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think he's sitting right next to you. Yeah, it's nice. It's great to have something to work together on. No, that is fabulous. Yeah, good for you. And did you have you been to any of the screenings with Ryan, Amanda?
Oh yeah. I was there premiere night. I'm a doula, and I had to leave a birth so that I could go be at the premiere, and then I had to leave quickly afterwards to go back.
You just say, look, could you just stick around for 2 hours? I'll be back
right
soon.
I was like, just hold it right there, I'll be right back.
Talk about body horror.
Exactly.
Client, just hold it, right?
Yeah.
Because we all know how easy that is.
Right, exactly.
That's probably a good segue to move into the premiere night. It went really well.
Yeah, so the premiere night.
Nice to meet you. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. It's really lovely to meet you. So yeah, I wanted to touch a little bit upon that now. So you've had the premiere night. Was that at one of the Alamo Draft houses?
Yes, there's an Alamo Draft House here in Springfield. It's actually fairly new. I think it's only 4 or 5 years old. I think I heard it's the largest Alamo Draft House in the U.S. at the moment.
Right. I love those. I mean, I used to live in Dallas in Texas, and I used to go to the Alamo Draft House there all the time. It was a fabulous cinematic experience. Great place to watch movies. So it sounds like the Alamo have been very supportive.
They have, at least the one here. We're trying to spread it out wider. We sold out all the showings. They want us to do more. They're talking about pushing it out to other Alamos. Curtis Killingsworth is the one who's been working with me here. He helped us make a DCP of the film so it could be presented in its best light, and he's been great to work with. Actually, kind of building off of that, it's a crazy dream. I don't know if it'll come true, but apparently we meet all the requirements for being considered a nomination for Academy Awards for Best Song, except for one thing. We have to show at a theater in Los Angeles County for 7 consecutive days. And there is apparently an Alamo in Los Angeles County. So I'm trying to see if they can push us out there and do a 7 consecutive day push for that. Do I think we'll be nominated? Not necessarily, but it would be nice just to know that we were in the bucket.
Indeed. And there may be other requirements you don't meet around, I don't know, whatever. They've got all these rules now.
Oh yeah, there's tons of them, but
a lot of rules.
From the research that I did, that was we've met all the rules except for that one. So that's what we're trying to see if we can.
So the premiere night must have been very exciting. Were the cast and crew all there? Was it?
Most of them were there. There was a couple that couldn't make it, but yeah, we had 180 people show up that night, and we had 2 kind of consecutive showings. And then we had a kind of an after party. They've got a big bar in the front area, so we all hung out afterwards, and it was a really great night. It was
press there. Had some press.
We had a lot of press leading up to it, but we didn't necessarily have any live press the night of. So
more keeping it in the family, as it were. Yeah, the cast and crew.
I missed. I was going to come down the 28th, but unfortunately, I was at the NFL draft.
Oh.
So I was exhausted the next day, and I'm like, no.
I would have skipped the NFL draft, John, and I would have gone to the premiere.
I'm going to try and come to when you start the showings again at the Alamo. I'm going to try and come down for one because I live in Sedalia. So
okay, yeah, that's not that far.
It's a couple hour drive. That's it.
Cool. I did want to talk about awards though. So you've been nominated for a bunch of Atlantis awards. So I'll be honest, I'm not that familiar with them. So what can you tell us about that?
I think it's a festival that's only 2 or 3 years old, but it is in LA. And somebody who I don't know if he sits on the board or if he just knows people on the board, but he was somebody who I was in the Army with, and he said, "Hey, you really should submit to this film festival." And so I reached out and I submitted, and there was like 7 possible awards that we fit out of like 10 or 11 possible awards, and we ended up getting nominated for all 7. So best film, best director, best screenplay, etc.
Well, according to this, it's the most nominated film in their history. I know it's a short history, but you're hitting a peak already for them.
Yeah, we broke whatever record they had on that. So then they reached out and wanted to kind of do an interview with us about that.
Yeah, and I can see that apparently you enjoyed performing in musicals.
Yeah. I was. I got the opportunity to be Seymour in Little Shop of Horrors when I was in high school. So that was.
Now, is there any video footage of that existing?
There might be somewhere, but you're talking 25, 26 years ago.
We'll get our sleuths on that, looking for grainy VHS. Yeah. We have the evidence, right? So
but it was a super honor to get nominated. The award ceremony is in 9 days, so that's when we'll find out if we won any of these.
Now, is that in LA?
Yes, it's in LA. I can't make it because I have work obligations, but our songwriter Nathan Hurley is going to be out there writing some music with some people, and so he's going to be able to attend.
Well, good luck, mate. Good luck with those. Is that? Did they I'm going to look up, see if they broadcast those awards, and see if we can drop
That's a
in
good
on them.
question, because if they do, I'd love to tune into it.
Yeah, I'm going to check that out, or if anybody in the chat, like Darius or Davina, is able to just take a quick look at that, because if there is, we could send a link to that and people could watch. That'd be very exciting. Edge of the seat. Yeah,
there might be a Betamax of that. Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, I'll bet there is. Come on, there's got to be.
Well, I know there's videos of the musical that I did in high school, because we had one of those moms that videotaped everything her kid was in.
I have videotape of me when I was in amateur dramatics. I wasn't a kid; it was much later, and there's incriminating evidence of me attempting to sing on stage and stuff, and it's terrible. I've tried to burn all copies of that, but
in addition to this, we've also are an official selection for the Gen Con Film Festival, so they haven't announced any nominations yet. That's Guys on a Bus there.
Yeah, so Fox Royale, Guys on a Bus. And Nathan is
he's the third. Yeah, right there. You're right
gentleman there, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll be looking those guys up too. And as I say, if I do lots of shows about music, so I'll be willing to chat to them.
The song from the movie that gets stuck in everybody's head is actually the ritual song, where they're all trying to sing Latin and they're just butchering the pronunciation. But that's the song that gets stuck in everyone's head. We keep hearing that people wake up the next day and they've got that ritual song stuck in their head. Oh. And it's actually a Guys on a Bus song that we put Latin words to. And so over the credits, they play the song I Wait. So if you listen to the song I Wait by Guys on a Bus, that's actually the tune of the Resurrection song.
Okay, yeah. Well, see, mispronunciation is a good thing, because maybe the ritual is real. We don't know that. So mispronouncing it helps.
Well, if you must know, and it's not in the subtitles, you just have to know, if you look up the Latin words that we used, like the actual pronunciation, they use 3 phrases. The first one, they say in Latin, kind of, please bring him life. The second one is please make him not dead, or it's like please and thank you. And then the third one is some money would be nice too.
I'm going to learn that ritual then, just for that part. I think at this point we've probably got about 20 minutes left or so. I wouldn't mind playing the second trailer for the movie. I did want to play it at some point before we reach the end, so now would be a good spot because we have trailer number 2. Let me just find that for you guys so we can get another good look.
You might see the chicken stabbing scene in that trailer.
Yeah. There's no images of the Elder God, though, is there?
You will see it at the end of this trailer, actually.
Right. Okay. So let me just...
We're here at Kingdom Beyond Community, just south of Eldritch, with Elder Clyde Schaefer. Clyde, tell us about what's going on out here.
Yes, sir. Well, we have out here, we are part of an amazing community, all right? And we share everything. We share struggles. We share possessions.
Is this some sort of cult?
No. No, it's a community.
Great to be in a community. You all have the same ideals. It's great to be in a community. You can work together on your problems. It's great to be in a community and pay that temple tax.
Half our earning.
It's great to be in a community. We can wear these burlap hats.
They're exclusive.
It's great to be in a community. Why would we ever leave?
We can't.
Jeff, why do you keep hanging out with the one person that makes you so miserable?
It's just not that simple. He's got looks and charm and, well, everybody seems to love him. There was a new girl at work today, though. Rich took her on a tour of the station.
So?
I just know how these things wind up. What do I have to offer that Rich can't do better?
What's so great about my brother? Wish I could make him go away.
Life here would be easy if he'd leave. Life here would be easy if he'd leave.
Oh, there's a great view of the book. Yeah.
Leave. 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 Leave.
So you saw it there just for a split second.
Yeah, just for a second. I love the way that trailer builds at the end. You see just some tiny bits of key scenes. I just love that. Yeah, good stuff. But yeah, we saw some really. Hang on, I gotta get this out of here. There we go. We saw some really good little snippets there. You were talking about the table full of Lovecraftian memorabilia. We got a little bit of the Elder God. I love the whiteboard. Don't eat humans.
At one point, they are trying to teach zombies some morals.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're a fan of Shaun of the Dead.
Yes.
I'm not trying to say you've taken anything from it, but there's a tiny little bit of the feeling of that, I think.
Yeah, it's also been compared to like Tucker and Dale versus Evil and a couple others like that.
Yeah. And that's it's inspiration. Everyone takes inspirations, and those are Shaun of the Dead's a great example of how to kind of subvert the zombie genre, and just put little bits of that in it.
And I wouldn't consider it just another zombie film because in a typical zombie film, you've got tons of zombies. All they want to do is eat people. These are more along the lines of what I would call voodoo-ish type zombies, where you have an army of undead people that just listen to one person.
Yeah, and Lovecraft isn't really zombies. It's more perversion of humans by various means, whether it be alien takeover or spores, or they're not zombies. They still got some humanity left. So again, hence you can don't eat people. Be good. Yeah. So did you, in making this movie, I mean, you've put a lot of beloved references in. Were you at any time thinking, well, maybe I'm going a bit too far with this? Maybe I should think about like the balance between your artistic vision and what the audience might want. Is there any contention for you in there?
Not necessarily. I knew right away that people were going to think it was a weird film. And so I tried to lean into it being over the top. And just knowing full well that some people this film's not necessarily for everyone. I've had a lot of people that have said, it's a musical, so I'm not going to like it. And you just have to be like, okay, you just gotta roll with it. Because it's true. There's certain things that people aren't going to like about it. They're probably, some Lovecraft purists aren't going to like that it has parts that are silly, and horror purists aren't going to like that it's musical, and so it is a quirky, fun film. I also intentionally made it PG-13 instead of R. So like most of the violence is off camera or obscured. And that was just because, growing up with, my kids growing up, I showed them a lot of horror films, and I like being able to have younger people watch a horror film.
I did want to ask you about that when Amanda was on earlier. And I don't know how old your kids are, and you don't need to reveal that, obviously, but have you shown them the movie?
Oh yeah, they've all seen it, and a lot of them were actually in it as well. My youngest kid is 15.
So, right. So they're teenagers and beyond, yeah.
Yeah, I think all but one of my kids have a cameo in it somewhere.
Right, yeah, that must have been fun for them. Oh, Dad's movie yet again.
Yeah,
Dad's movie.
But they were all at the premiere, and they've all been very supportive.
Nice, good. That's great. Yeah, it must have been a big thrill for them to the premiere, because it sounds like you managed to maintain the artistic vision that you had. You've not said, we'll cut this out because people might not want to see it. You want them to see it as you intended.
Yes. Yeah. There's I would say there was very little that ended up hitting the cutting room floor at this point. I have been told that the inciting incident that kind of kicks everything off happens about 25 to 28 minutes into the film.
Yeah.
and the producers that I'm talking to now have said that needs to happen faster. So I may end up cutting an additional like 8 to 10 minutes out of the film to try to get to it faster.
Okay, so what have you? That sounds like something you've learned from the process, because it was your first time really as a director and producer, director, writer of the whole thing. What else have you learned from this, would you say?
I mean, I feel like the biggest thing is you just got to persevere. There's been a lot of film projects around here that have started and have just fizzled out. People will get 2/3 through and they'll just stop filming, or they'll they'll get to the editing process and not be able to finish it or whatever. And honestly, the biggest thing is that you just got to keep pushing through it. I would say that's probably one of the biggest things. Now, of course, I'm in the process of learning everything about the distribution part, because I honestly know little to nothing about it. And so this is a very big learning experience for me.
Yeah, it sounds like that's almost the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
How do you distribute a movie? You can make a movie. Hell, people make movies on their iPhones. I know there's a couple of filmmakers we've seen them done everything shot on iPhones or iPads. Great, you got a movie. Super. Who's going to see it but me and my family?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you even figure out who to talk to?
A lot of it's just connections, because my nephew is in a band that's out in LA. I got some connections through him. There's a local filmmaker who he's kind of been out of the game for about 8 years, but he had some connections out in LA. So that's kind of what's gotten things moving on that. And then having the Alamo here has actually been super beneficial as well, because they're able to reach out to other Alamo.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. Great. And just to sum up, we've got the Atlantis Awards coming up.
Yes.
Which you're going to be a part of. You have applied, or you've entered other film festivals. You mentioned one or two: Toronto,
Chicago, Tallgrass Film Festival. There's a few in England that we've entered, Fright Fest, and a couple others out there.
Okay. Yeah. Have you had any feedback from the H.P. Lovecraft Society at all?
Not necessarily. I know we've posted there a couple times, and it hasn't really gotten a lot of interaction, honestly. I have entered the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival out in Portland, Oregon. I'm hoping that we'll get a selection for that as well.
Yeah, because they have made movies themselves. I know they've made a couple of.
They are purists. So they try to make sure that it's period accurate, that it's definitely set back in like the 1920s, 1910s.
Yeah, and they film it in the black and white and other formats, and the silent and so on. So they seem like they're hardcore.
I think they would be a little bit more lenient towards Eldritch, because it's not necessarily a Lovecraft story. I mean, it is Lovecraft themed, and it plays off a lot of Lovecraft.
Not an adaptation.
It's not like I took it's not like I took the Dunwich Horror and made it modern, because that's what they're not a fan of. They don't like taking an old story and putting it in the modern world.
You're not adapting a Lovecraft story. You're just putting elements in that universe. Big difference. Yeah. No, fascinating stuff, mate. And we have they've got at least 2 movies I can think of that they produced that were very much purist, old style, black and white.
I have both of those, like Whisper in the Darkness, and
that's one of them. Whisper in the Darkness, and I think there's another one that I looked at the other day. Is it the Haunted Palace? No, the Haunted Palace is an old movie.
Yeah.
There's one more that they've done that they produced themselves that I can think of. I just can't think of the name right now. But they've they're purists. But I mean, as you say, you're not directly adapting stories.
Just pulling over a lot of themes.
And I know you're still heavily focused on Eldritch, quite rightly, and anything we can do to help put you together with people like Chris Gore will do, mate. But what do you see next for you in this journey?
So I have several of my own projects that are in the outline phase. I've got one that involves time travel in caves. I've got another one that involves Santa going to jail. I've got a lot of different ideas that I'm working on. But more immediately, I'm co-writing a dramedy with a local guy, Curtis, and it looks like it will have that fun, quirky feel, kind of like Lars and the Real Girl and some of those other really kind of quirky independent films. So I'm co-writing that with him.
Nice.
And then also on the VFX front, I'm also helping a local slasher film by Brittany Greer called Happy Halloween. So they did a lot of practical effects, but they're, you know, of course they're like, we need more blood. So I'm adding a lot more to it. So
you can never have enough. Never enough blood. And what do they use for blood these days in movies?
It's a variety. So there's a scene where we've got, you know, where he's eating some bloody stuff out of a bowl, and apparently it's like this mint, it looks like blood, but it's like mint flavored. We had him eat so much of that stuff, I was worried we were going to make him sick. But
mint overdose.
But then the other stuff is just, you know, these big gallons of you know, fake blood, and then we've got some chunky stuff that we'll throw in it, and you know, it's fun.
Yeah, cool. No, that's all sounds like the fun bit to me, but it's not like the old days where they had tomato sauce and, you know, tomato ketchup and.
No, this is all like corn syrup stuff.
Yeah, that's terrible for you. Don't eat the fake blood.
I hate to say it, I actually have to take off.
No problem, my friend. You know, we appreciate you very much being here, Ryan. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming, and you know, good luck with the distribution stuff. We'll stay in touch so we can see if we can get you know, Chris Gore on board to talk to you and do something with you, a film threat.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I mean, I live in the sticks in Alberta, so God knows where I'd ever be able to see a copy until it comes out in Blu-ray. But looking forward to the chance to go see it somewhere, and I'll be keeping an eye on the listings.
Well, if all else fails, maybe I can sneak you a private link to check it out.
I'd appreciate that very much, mate. And then I will do a video on my channel to review it. So there you go. But yeah, just check out Eldritch USA on Twitter. I think we had the link tree as well earlier. These are two great places you can find out what's going on with the movie, everybody. So check those out. Ryan, enjoy the rest of your day. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Take care, mate, and thank you.
Appreciate
Good luck.
Ryan.
Good luck, mate. And yeah, thanks to Ryan. That was yeah, we'll get the word out. That was awesome. What a fantastic project. What a wonderful gentleman and a wonderful lady and his wife, Amanda. It was so nice she popped on. I'm extremely grateful to them for coming on the show. And it's the kind of project we like to get behind. Independent movie maker making something in our wheelhouse, genre stuff that we love.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for you, John, you can actually go visit the places it was filmed in.
Yeah, I know a lot of the places it was filmed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not from Springfield, but I've spent a lot of time in Springfield.
Yeah. Now, Springfield's an interesting name because obviously Springfield was in The Simpsons, and there's always a lot of debate about whether it was meant to be, or indeed if it was based on any Springfield, because there's about 11 of them. There's Illinois, there's Missouri. What do you think? Do you think it was?
Well, there are some things that match Springfield, but there's a lot that doesn't. So I don't think it was Springfield, Missouri. If I had to guess, I'd say probably Springfield, Illinois.
Yeah, I think it was probably more Illinois. It's just such a popular place name, Springfield. There's so many Springfields. It's weird.
Yeah. Davina's right. In the G.I. Joe movie, it takes place in Springfield, Missouri.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, that's true. And that I think the G.I. Joe movie is the one that features one of my favorite Korean actors, Lee Byung-hun.
Well, not the live action, the cartoon.
Oh, the cartoon. I'm thinking of the live action.
Yeah. This was the 80s cartoon.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I saw some of them, but I wasn't really watching a lot of cartoons in the 80s. No, I wish
I still was.
I was aware of them, but yeah, no, I don't know about anyone in the chat, but I did a little digging beforehand into sort of what are the best Lovecraftian movies or adaptations, and there's actually some that are direct adaptations, some that are influenced, but I guess for me, I'd be looking at Reanimator or In the Mouth of Madness as being very Lovecraftian. think Reanimator. I'm not sure if Reanimator was a direct adaptation.
I think it is. I think there's a short story about that.
Yeah, but it features all those elements. It's kind of science fiction in a way because there's technology involved in some of them, or something from space, but there's supernatural horror, there's gore. It's a nice stew of stuff. But In the Mouth of Madness, one of my favorite movies, isn't a direct adaptation, but it's got a lot of, I don't think, but it's got a lot of Lovecraftian horror in it. From Beyond was mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Event
Horizon.
Event Horizon. I love that movie.
I do too.
Absolutely adore that movie. There's a couple of older ones. I think Roger Corman's AIP did a few, and they look, you would at first glance you would maybe think they were Hammer horror movies, but they're more. I think it was Roger Corman that made them. So there was the Dunwich Horror, the Haunted Palace, some older ones like that are quite cute if you ever see them. I actually have a couple of posters, so I don't know if anyone in the chat is into any of these, but so I might do a top 10 Lovecraft movies one day. So this one I haven't seen, but I've got it on my list now to watch, which is Nicolas Cage. The Color. This is a direct adaptation. Color.
I haven't
Out of
seen that one.
Space. I've not seen that. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
No, and I'm keen to see it now because it's Nicolas Cage. So, Die Monster Die. That's one of the old American International ones. It's Boris Karloff.
Yep.
I just love the posters. Even if you watch the movie, the poster's great. Another one, From Beyond, we mentioned, which is these are the Stuart Gordon ones.
Yeah.
Who's got a real. It's funny, didn't he do a couple of kids' movies as well, Stuart Gordon? And then, of course, the classic In the Mouth of Madness.
Yep.
Which is a stunningly good movie. Absolutely brilliant. John Carpenter.
Which we've covered here on Pop Culture Minefield.
That's right. There was an entire show in it. Yeah. Check that out. I wanted to do it one day on my channel, but there's a bunch of other movies I've got listed first. But Reanimator, possibly that was quite a fairly popular movie. Reanimator, if I remember rightly.
Oh yeah,
1985. That got a lot of attention. Even Roger Ebert liked it. Again, Stuart Gordon directing. He did a third one, which is 2 stories in one, in Dagon.
Yeah.
Which I've not seen that one either.
I've seen it.
Yeah. What do you think?
It's okay. I mean, it's it's not like top tier, but it's definitely honors its source material.
Yeah, I'm going to get around to watching all the ones I haven't seen, and as Davina suggested, a Lovecraft stream might be a good idea for a show. Certainly enough within the Mouth of Madness, Event Horizon, Reanimator. These are all fantastic movies. Any Sam Neill, isn't Sam Neill in 2 of those?
Yeah.
What is it about Sam Neill? This is one of the Lovecraft Society ones, which I've not seen either, but I think you can watch it on YouTube. The Call of Cthulhu. I can never pronounce that.
Yeah.
This is the one that they've done with the mythoscope, they call the filming of it, but it's silent with a orchestral symphonic soundtrack. I have to admire them for doing that.
Oh yeah.
I think it's good. To make any silent movie now of any kind is with the old soundtrack ideas is a revolutionary thing these days. So the Dunwich Horror. Now, I remember seeing this years ago, and it's a Roger Corman didn't direct it, but it's American International. What's funny about this one is Sandra Dee stars in it, and she was known mainly for being in like beach movies and cute romantic things.
Brian, we have reached the end of the show, and we have less than 30 seconds.
All right. Well, in that case, thank you very much, everyone out there. Thanks again to our guest, Ryan Smith. We appreciate you all listening to chat. You were brilliant today. Thanks. You you can see me on Saturday night on Bourbon and Boarding on my channel on YouTube and on Brahma Bulls Rumble. And then I got more great shows lined up coming soon. So check those out on Pop Culture Minefield and That 70s Rock Fan. Thank you, John. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, everyone out there. It's been real.